Lisa Holdsworth is our fabulous guest on episode 14 of Light and Leeds podcast. She's written for Emmerdale and for Midsomer Murders, and she runs Slung Low Shorts, which have been running for 5 years and showcases local writers. Lisa is the chair of the Writers Guild in Great Britain, and so she's obviously one very busy individual, so we were ever so grateful for her to come along and tell us about what she's been up to. I hope you enjoy listening to her as much as I enjoyed the conversation. This week on Light and Leeds, we've got the wonderful Lisa Holdsworth as our guest. Thank you so much for coming.
An absolute pleasure.
So can you just tell us a little bit about how long have you been in Leeds?
I've lived in Leeds pretty much all my life. We had a brief sojourn to Halifax when I was a kid, but we were only there 5 years, and 3 years down in that London to do my degree. But I came straight back. I couldn't stand to be down there anymore.
Wow, yeah, of course. And what is it that you do in Leeds?
So I'm a screenwriter, which is telly and theatre writer as well. I'm also the chair of the Writers Guild of Great Britain, so I'm the chair of my trade union, which is very nice.
Amazing, yeah.
Hard work. And I do various other cultural things in Leeds, including running Slung Low Shorts in the summer at the Holbeck.
Yeah, which I had the chance to go and see, and were amazing. I was so impressed. So how long have you been doing that? This
summer will be our 5th year, so it'll be our anniversary. We're a bit surprised we got this far. It started out as Manchester had a similar thing called JB Shorts, which ran for 10 years. They've now finished because they lost their venue. They may come back at a later date. And we said, well, we can do it better on the right side of the pen. So we very much mirrored their model when we first started. So it was 6 short plays by TV writers who've not necessarily written for theatre before. As we've gone over the years, we've developed, we try and bring in some new voices, people who've never written for the stage before. So this year we had a woman who'd been a drama teacher for years and was sort of coming to her career in her retirement very late on. So she wrote us a lovely little play. A young voice was only 19. She's gone off to UEA to do a creative writing degree, but she wrote a lovely little play for us. So now we're a bit more free and easy, and it's more reflective, I think, of the cultural scene in Leeds. So yeah. We love it. We love doing it.
Fantastic. And you write for TV?
I do. So Midsomer Murders, Call the Midwife, Emmerdale. Back in the day, it's a long time since I've written Emmerdale, and I've just finished their rebooting All Creatures Great and Small. That's been filming up in North Yorkshire.
Wow.
Yeah, so and they've already commissioned a second series of that, so I don't know whether I'll be on the second series, but I had a great deal of fun. I was the only Yorkshire voice in the room sometimes,
really?
Which was strange.
Wow, amazing. So did you have to go back to the original books?
Yes, which are and I would recommend anybody to go and read. They're so beautifully written.
Really are.
And the Herriott estate have really looked after that legacy. His children are still with us, Rosie and Jim. They've had an eye over it as well. And they were such a joy to read. Sometimes you get source material when you're doing an adaptation, it's a bit of a slog. But this was just joyous. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I've not even heard anything about that. I'm so excited.
It's Channel 5. I think they were planning to show it this year, but I think the realities of filming in North Yorkshire, particularly the weather we've had over the last few months,
of course, yeah,
has been a bit. So it starts in the new year, and if it's as good as the lead writer Ben Vanstone on it has done it with such passion and such care, I think it'll be a really great watch.
Oh, how fantastic! I can't wait to see that. So, how did you get started out in writing?
So I always wrote from a child. I was an inveterate liar as a child. I realise that's just making stories up. It was always a bit of an obsession. There was a brief period. I went to Park Lane College, which is no longer there. I think they're knocking it down, aren't they?
Yeah.
And did theatres, and I thought I wanted to act, but very quickly it was a great course. And now they run something very different, but they still run great arts courses at what is now City College. And I thought that acting was my thing, but I realised really quickly there was a lot of standing around and being told what to do, and that really was never going to sit well with me. I wanted to be more creative, and towards the end of that A-level, we did a group piece, and I helped write the script, and I realised I really enjoyed it. So I went off to university knowing I sort of wanted to do something in teletheatre film, but being very unclear. So I did an academic course. It was all critical theory and watching classic films and picking them to pieces. And I really enjoyed it. I loved doing my degree. I'm not sure what it taught me or qualified me for. It was very unvocational. But when I should have been writing my dissertation, I ended up writing a script. I ended up writing the dissertation as well, but I probably took more care over the screenplay. And so when I came back to Leeds, I started popping it around, seeing if anybody could give me some tips and advice, and it ended up by hook and by crook under the nose of Kay Mellor.
Wow.
And she was amazing. She gave me some really tough feedback on it, but it was very welcome feedback. And then a few months later, I ended up being her personal assistant. She took me on, and a few months after that, I'd written my first episode of television, which was on Fat Friends, series 2.
That's such a great series.
It really was, and it was an enormous learning curve. It was a real apprenticeship. Working for Kay, I got to see inside and out of the production, and then I went to Emmerdale, and that really honed my craft and taught me discipline and deadlines and all that kind of thing.
Oh wow, amazing.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, what a great step up as well, like working with Kay Mellor. She's so great.
She's still really does put a hand back for new writers, and I think that's really to be admired.
Definitely, because I think I saw that she's doing some sort of a course with the Playhouse.
She is, yeah, and she's looking for unrepresented voices, which I think it's beholden on every successful writer to say, look, I'm white, straight, cis. Maybe people haven't had the same opportunity as me and have got bigger hurdles to go over, so let's knock a few of them hurdles down, and she's really good at that.
Yeah, how fantastic, giving everybody a chance to have their voice heard.
Absolutely.
So what would you say was your most piece that you're most proud of that you've worked on?
Oh, that's hard, because there's nothing that I cringe when I see it. I mean, I'm sure there's episodes of Emmerdale, if I went back to them now, I'd go, oh, I won't write it like that anymore. I suppose the piece that really challenged me, and I am really proud of it, was I wrote a play last year called Black Teeth and a Brilliant Smile, which was an adaptation of Adele Stripe's book about Andrea Dunbar, and it was the most extraordinary journey. It was for Freedom Studios in Bradford, and we really thought it'd be a little play that would do a little tour, and the response was extraordinary. The power of people hearing about a local woman who had a really tough life, but I'm working with 5 of the best actors I've ever worked with. They were stunning, and a great director, and a lovely company who were enormously supportive, and the response to it was extraordinary. So yeah, I am proud of that piece. It's in a sort of, oh wow, that happened kind of way, but when you're in the thick of it, when you're doing the writing, it's half slog, half hitting the deadlines, making sure you've enough pages, having the arguments with the producers and the script editors, and then it's only at the end you get to sit back and go, oh, actually, we did all right there, in amongst it all, especially on television, there's so many production problems. You'll get notes like, it's really lovely with the horses, but we can't afford them, can you turn them into dogs? Or you can only have 3 scenes in that location. So it's all so finicky and practical, and making sure it runs to the right length, and that if it's a commercial hour, that the ad breaks are going to come in the right place, and it sometimes feels a bit workmanlike, but in amongst it, if your heart's in it, you can produce something you really love. So I'm proud of my telly work as well.
Oh, brilliant. And so just for everybody who's listening, can you just describe a little bit about Andrea Dunbar?
Sure. So Andrea was a Bradford playwright. She came from a working class background. She grew up in Buttershaw in Bradford, was a single parent, was pregnant at the age of 15, and had 3 children by different women by the time she died at the age of 29.
Oh, so sad.
It is incredibly sad, and I can't shake the feeling of what a waste that she wasn't particularly supported well in her life after she became a hit. She wrote Read Soon Bob too, and she was the cause célèbre of the theatre world in London for a brief time, but she was tough to work with, right, because of her chaotic life, because of the realities of what it is and it's still true today, for working class people, fitting into a world where they don't feel part of it, the financial constraints of that, the realities of being a freelancer, and it's one of the things I want to work on. I'm very passionate about doing something about that while I'm chair of the Writers Guild. And so she wrote these 3 incredible plays that are a really important part of the British theatrical canon. I think they're overlooked a lot. They're not produced very often, which things shame. They haven't been published in a collection for years. It's very difficult to get hold of them, and I think that's absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
And so, writing this play about her, there are lots of parallels. Like, my life is very settled. I'm very lucky. I have a very supportive family. But knowing how it feels to walk into a theatre space in London as a working class northerner, and you never quite shake that feeling of this is not for me.
Yeah.
And so I think it was extraordinarily acute for Andrea. And so it was a real journey writing that play, and it made me question a lot of things about my own, how settled I am now in what I do, but what a journey it was to get to where I am, and the times that I had to bite back. And even this year, there's been a couple of dues I've had to go to where I really didn't feel part of it, and that you never really shake that, I don't think.
No, and do you think that's something that comes from? Do you think it's sort of kind of like a double whammy because you come from being working class and also being a woman?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been in writers' rooms, in storyline sessions where I've been the only woman in the room. I've certainly, like I say, I've been the only northern voice in the room. It never goes away, and I always think that's two strikes against me. So what if I was a person of colour? What if I was trans? What if I was disabled? That would be another thing that would just make me the other in the room. Yeah. And we've got to improve the representation in writers' rooms, on crews, across our industry, so that no one ever walks into a room and suddenly is very aware of every single thing that's different about them.
Exactly, yeah. And that's a great position to be in, where you can help other people.
I hope so. It's difficult. It's a really tough journey. The problem is people are really defensive. So if you say to someone, do you know what, your crew's a little bit white, the guy, you calling me a racist?
Yeah.
I'm not calling you a racist, I'm just saying your representation's not good.
I'm just pointing out.
Exactly. So the learning curve, I've only been the chair of the Guild for 6 months, the learning curve has been, oh God, people are quite touchy. And learning how to be diplomatic, how to do that lobbying and make people feel, look, we can all be part of this journey together. We can make sure that we get where we need to be without everybody feeling hurt and threatened and all the rest of it. But it's tough. People are very protective of their worlds.
Yeah, of course they are, and that's a very strange position for you to be in, where you're having to sort of straddle the two worlds and think about those issues that are, like you said, it can be difficult for people to sort of bring home, really.
Yeah. It's interesting, when I first got in touch, sort of started getting involved with the Writers Guild, people said, be careful, don't be the person that puts your head above the parapet, you'll get it shot off. And actually, that has not been my experience. I think there is a grudging respect for people who stand up for their fellow, whether it's you're a miner, a transport worker, or a writer. If you stand up for yourself and others, you can't help but respect that. I'm sure there's a couple of people who maybe have looked at my name on the list and gone, oh no, she'll be a bother causer. And that's like, I don't want to work with someone like that. The best compliment I've ever had is when I became the chair, someone wrote to me and said, I was talking to someone at the BBC about you becoming chair of the Writers Guild, and he said, oh God help us, and that's the best compliment I've ever had.
I'm making people worried.
Yeah, absolutely. If I make someone a bit nervous as I walk into a room, that's good news.
So how did it come about with the Writers Guild, and what does that involve? Like, can you explain to us, like, what is the Writers Guild? So
we're a trade union. We're a non-politically affiliated trade union. So we don't throw our lot in with the Labour Party, the Tories, or the Monster Raving Loony Party, if that still exists. But we are TUC affiliated, and we campaign for professional writers to protect their rights, their working conditions, and obviously their pay. So we go in and negotiate BBC, ITV, and the independent producers. We don't negotiate maximums, that's what your agent is for. We don't go in and say Jed Mercurio needs more money. I'm sure he would like some more, but that's not our job. But we do go in and say that new writers coming on stream, so if you're writing for doctors or in the theatre or even writing books and video games, we protect everybody.
Wow.
We make sure that they're being paid well, they're being paid for everything they do, they maintain their copyright, they have rights over their work, they have creative control. But something that we're increasingly looking at is working conditions, mental health, making sure that people are protected from bullying and harassment. We have on our website there's a place where if you feel you're being bullied or harassed, you can anonymously report it. We make sure that basically people get a fair crack of the whip. We don't develop talent. We don't offer advice on how to be a better writer. We sometimes run events. That's not our job. It's just once you're a professional writer, we'll make sure you are looked after.
So just like because the guild, even the word the guild, it sort of, it conjures up ideas, doesn't it, of sort of, you know, like the blacksmith's guild.
I'd love it if I had a sash or a ceremonial hat. There's none of that. We have some very ordinary officers in London, but the nice thing about the guild, and I think that's probably where that collective name comes from, is we have amazing permanent staff in our office. They're incredible. But for the most part, every committee, every working party, all those things are volunteers, and we're all working writers. So I came on stream, I joined the television committee because I was a working television writer, and I've sat in a room with people who've written top-rated drama and people who are just starting out on their careers on something like Doctors or EastEnders or Coronation Street, Hollyoaks, all that kind of thing. But we protect everybody, and once you walk into that committee, everybody's equal. There's no pulling rank because you won a BAFTA once. Everybody is aiming for the same thing, and I've really enjoyed working it. It's tough, it's a lot of work, and sometimes when the emails start piling, I'm like, oh God, this again. But somebody's got to do it, and if I can, when I finish my tenure as chair, if I leave it in as good a state as the last chair left it, and she really did, we're financially stable, we've got a good membership, we are listened to, respected. 2 years ago we released a big report on gender equality in our industry. That really rattled some cages, so we want to do a bit more of that. It's interesting.
Yeah, of course.
So if we can carry on doing that, then I'll be very happy with the work I've done with the guild.
Brilliant. And so did you have to apply for that, or...?
We invite anybody to come along to committees and find out what we're doing. I had to be elected. I was lucky enough to stand unopposed, I think mainly because nobody else wants to do it. But, so we've had a run of really great chairs. So I was very lucky to inherit that. But yeah, anybody who is a professional writer, we have various levels of membership. So we've just released our student membership. If you're in full-time undergraduate education, and you are thinking of starting a career, what you'll get for that is our e-bulletin, which every week gives you news about writing, opportunities, jobs that are there. It's a really good way to get informed about the industry. Get that for £30. If you are just starting out in your career, you haven't had your first professional contract, but you want to understand the industry and you want to speak to the office, we've got candidate membership, and then there's full membership. And we do it on a sliding scale, so the more you earn, the more you pay to the guild, to a ceiling. But that means that those of us who are doing quite well are looking after those of us who are not doing as well or are starting out in our career. And I think it's a fantastic model.
What a great idea. Yeah. Just making sure that you're protecting anybody who's involved in it.
Absolutely. And we give advice in the office. So every month we have our EC and our caseworkers. Now, casework can be from someone who's been bullied, someone who's had an idea stolen, someone who wasn't treated very well in the writer's room, etc., etc. We cover everything across the industry. And our caseworkers, I think this year it was 190 pieces of casework, and only a handful of them are still active. We sort things out, and we will knock on doors and we will ask the hard questions of the BBC, of ITV, of theatres, of production companies. And so I would say to any writer, if you want some protection, come and join us. It's like buying insurance. Hopefully you'll never need us, but we're there if you do.
And also, I suppose, while you're contributing to such a great thing. That's for sort of your people who are all doing the same skill that you... Yeah, that's fantastic.
And as freelancers, there's very... Because most writers are freelancers, very few staff. If we were in America, we'd all be staff. But some rallying point, somewhere where you can find other people to talk to. And a lot of what we do is people get in touch with us, and it's other professionals giving advice to other professionals. Half of our casework never goes on record because it's a phone call. So this has happened. Is this right? What should I do? so much of our work is done informally from professional to professional, and keeping that network going. That's not networking to improve your career, but it's networking to make sure you feel supported.
Yeah.
It's really good for your mental health as well to know there are other people out there. I think it's really important.
And I suppose because writing can be a very solitary experience.
Incredibly so. Again, if we were in America, we'd be salaried to be in office. TV writers would be salaried to be in an office, kicking ideas out. But the reality of television writing for most people in this country is, it's a drafty attic, staring at a blank screen and wondering why you didn't do more work because your deadline's tomorrow. So, and I think that's pretty much across the board. I don't know anybody who doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, and I include myself in that. So knowing that there's someone out there who's also sat in their drafty attic staring at their computer is quite healthy, I think. Yeah,
definitely. And just like you said, just that feeling of feeling like you're not on your own and you've got a network of people. That's got to be lovely to know that you've got that resource.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, have you got anything that you feel like you've still got burning inside you, that you like projects that you want to do for yourself?
So, in television, I've written on lots of other people's shows, but I've never had my own show, and that's the aim for this year. Developing your own stuff in this country is notoriously difficult. There's never been more television. There's certainly never been more television drama, but it's still a tough nut to crack. So that's my aim for this year, and it's really weird. You look at a writer's CV and you'll see the various credit that is the tip of the iceberg. That's probably a third of the work that we do, because half of it is going to meetings, pitching ideas, writing up ideas that never get made. I've got a computer file full of them, and waiting for the ideas that you've had to have their perfect moment.
Yeah.
So, and it's luck, not judgment. So hopefully my luck will... I've had a really lovely year with doing Black Teeth and the television that I've done, so hopefully my luck will hold for 2020, and that's what will happen next year.
I really hope so.
Fingers crossed.
So do you feel like you've got like stories inside you that you really want to get out there?
Absolutely. I think most writers have burning passions, things that they come back to over and over again, I think. And so, for me, it's interesting that I started out with Fat Friends because... for your listeners, I am a woman of ample figure, and so that idea of how people are made to feel lesser because of how they look, how they feel about themselves, that inner confidence that some women have robbed from them, that's something I've wanted to write about for a really long time. I'm really interested in outsiders and people who feel that they're not living their full lives, because I think often they're being told by people who are acting in bad faith that their life is lesser.
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, because I think that's probably the truth of it.
Yeah, and I think as well, like you were talking about writing things at sort of the right time and getting your project out at the right time. I think particularly what you're talking about at the moment, there's a really great move, and for me, as a woman in my 40s, I feel like it's really coming to the fore. Like, you've got amazing artists like Lizzo with like body positivity.
Yeah.
And I mean, my niece, she's 19 and she follows all sorts of Instagram people, people who are really making her feel positive about herself and about the world. And I think it just feels like a real niche time at the minute.
I think there's lots to be said about social media that's negative.
Yeah.
Particularly when we're in the midst of an election, but there's a lot that's positive, which, in my opinion, is people being able to find their gang, people being able to find people who give them an alternative point of view. The effect that it's had on representation for LGBTQ people, and particularly trans people, that understanding, that's been a hell of an education for me over the last 10 years.
Me too,
I don't think I understood the nuances of that culture, of the struggles that community had gone through. And I hope I've come to a place where there's still plenty to learn, but I have an understanding and a respect for that community. So all of that, taking it out of the hands of our media, which is still pretty Oxbridge, still pretty white, still pretty middle class, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's room for both. That culture there's it's a mixed economy, But yeah, I think we're coming, and especially older women. Suddenly, older women having really sassy presence in social media.
Yeah.
I think it's glorious.
Yeah, it really is, because it sort of used to feel like, we were talking about this last night. It sort of feels like when my mum was sort of my age, she felt like she had to worry more, and like it felt like there was like a cut-off point. Oh, you get to 40, that's it.
Yeah.
Like your life's over. Do you know what I mean? But whereas I really do feel that, I was telling my niece last night, I feel like I've always been quite confident and stuff, but I just feel like I really now feel more myself. I feel more confident. I don't care what people think about me. I'm quite happy to just shout my mouth off.
Yeah.
And it's took me a long time to get to the period where now I feel like, of all the time that I've lived, I feel like I've got a voice and I'm not scared to use it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like you were saying, like the media and everything, it feels like we finally got to this point. It took a long time.
Yep.
And now we're finally here. And like you were saying about the LGBT community, what I love is me and my niece have been watching UK Drag Race.
Oh.
And Pause.
Oh, glorious. But also, can I just say, Davina De Campo was robbed. Absolutely robbed. I think it's a disgrace.
I think that definitely the Vivian was always like sort of... It was like she was a winner from the beginning.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh!
If I could even dream of going out looking like that, I'd be over the moon. Those men are twice the women I am.
And just the whole, I love that last bit where it was about they got their mums and the sisters in.
Oh,
that was just so heartwarming,
yeah.
and how much he sort of like really held himself back. He could be quite bitchy in the other episodes,
but
then he was like, oh, "This is my mum," and he was so delicate and lovely with her, and also like even just the thinking of that, because Blue Hydrangea had left the week before, and just the idea that she really struggled with her parents and where she came from, and I just thought just taking those things into account, like you're learning who you are and you're being who you are and you're being fabulous, and then you're also having to deal with a whole group of people who are looking down on you and judging you. I thought it was amazing, and I think to bring that onto the BBC was just amazing.
Great. And like I say, with Pose there, which is that it's obviously an American drama, but that's been a real eye opener. I think that understanding of what went on during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, the way the gay community were vilified and ignored. It's a source of shame, I think.
It really is, but also I think what's great is that they're bringing this out.
Yeah.
So my niece has always watched Drag Race, and then when she came to live here, I was like, "Oh, I've got to watch UK Drag Race," and it was amazing. And then I said to her, because I had no idea, I loved Vogue, Madonna's Vogue, but at the time when I was a kid, I had no idea how connected it was to everything.
Yeah.
And then to sort of see that, and to be watching UK Drag Race, and then to be able to say to my niece, this is the history, this is where all this comes from, I just think is great. And just the fact that all of this stuff is out in the open now for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And just representation makes a big difference, doesn't it?
And this is something we talk about a lot through the Guild, that representation really does matter. And it's not just in front of the camera, and I think we're improving on that. We've got a long way to go. But we are improving, and what has been the real disruptor in our industry is Netflix. That they've had shows that are predominantly black, predominantly Latino, a lot of strong LGBTQ content, representations of people who are not neurotypical, all that kind of stuff. And it's absolutely blown out the water the argument that nobody will want to watch it. It's too niche.
It has.
There's some real hit shows, so that is enormously positive. But we have to improve representation behind the camera.
Yeah.
That we have to have people telling their stories. We have to have gay people telling their stories. We have to have black people telling their stories. And particularly, I would say, in this country, Southeast Asian people and East Asian people telling their stories. They're woefully underrepresented.
Really are, yeah.
And, coming from Leeds and Bradford, which has the most vibrant Southeast Asian culture, it is intrinsic to our culture now in these two cities. To see it not ever properly represented in the media is enormously frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Asian actors for packing up and going to America, because at least over there they've got a fighting chance of having a decent part instead of just strapping a suicide vest on and being in an episode of Spooks.
Yeah.
And for a long time,
that was
the reality. and it was just as bad for black actors as well. So we've a long way to go. We always have, but we need to get better at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of my favourite people at the moment is Little Sims. She's amazing. She's a hip hop artist. She's from South London. She's an actress. She's just a polymath. She's amazing, and I love the way that she represents who she is with the lyrics and things. And she was in Top Boy, which I've not actually got around to watching yet, but it's on my list. And so I think there was 2 series on BBC Three, and it was very, very popular. And I don't know why the BBC decided.
Channel 4, so it was originally Channel 4. Now Channel 4 have had a lot of changes of personnel in their drama department, and sometimes shows do suffer from that when they've changed who they're commissioning.
So sort of slip under the radar.
So yeah, I think it probably did.
Yeah.
But that's another great. It would have been unthinkable for another channel to pick someone else's show up a long time ago. I can think of a handful of examples, men behaving badly, shows like that.
Yeah.
But now Netflix does seem to be able to. I mean, they've got money to burn at the moment. It's all finance.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would say to anybody, look, it's about to be carnage out there in the S-word world. Mm-hmm. I think Amazon will probably buy Netflix, or Netflix will buy Amazon, then there's Disney Plus, and then etc. etc.
Yeah.
So at the moment, if you're an early adopter and you like to watch all of it, it's inexpensive, but it will consolidate eventually. But what's interesting is that change of culture and the way they've picked up shows. So yeah, Top Boy is an outstanding show.
Yeah.
I don't know why Channel 4 let it slip by. I can't speak for them, but I think we've now got an economy where someone else will pick it up, and it is really worth.
And some people have to watch out a little bit more, don't they? Mm-hmm. Because I absolutely adore watching television, and I just think I found it really interesting. I've been with Netflix, and I do have Amazon as well, and from sort of early on, and I grew up with the BBC been amazing, like you said, Channel 4, like some of the things they've done have been great. And then it's a really interesting time that we have now, because the sort of model of how you watch TV and why you choose to watch it and when you watch it is completely different. Like I think, for example, my son, he's 21, and I think he very rarely ever watches sort of TV as it naturally comes on.
TV,
yeah. So he sometimes will say, I've missed out on things because he doesn't watch it like that, and because he is only ever choosing what he wants to watch. Whereas I think more when I was a kid, you were sort of beholden to the schedule to some extent.
There's a thing that they call channel loyalty. So if you've got a great show that lots of people watch, like Strictly Come Dancing, that's still appointment to watch. You still want to watch it going out live. I'll be honest with you, I pause it for half an hour and then fast forward through the annoying films between the dancing. I just want to watch the dancing. And that's no offence to the lovely professionals who make those films, etc, etc.
It's about everyone watches TV in their own way.
Exactly. But there used to be a thing that people will carry on sitting on their sofa and watch whatever, let's see what's on next.
Yeah.
And so you'd have a follow-on. So you'd get, that's why the soaps were so popular, because everybody would tune in for Coronation Street, and then they'd stay to watch whatever was on ITV afterwards. You'd get a good lead-in. That I don't think is true anymore.
No.
I think because you're aware that you can flick around and come back to things, and that, especially now with the iPlayer, you can go back to the channel and rewind a show if you've come in 10 minutes late, etc, etc. I think it works brilliantly for some shows. Some shows have really done well out of it. I think it was very upsetting to see BBC Three disappear off the EPG, but then turn up as an online channel on some shows. Fleabag, for example.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure we're all sick of hearing about it. Fleabag did really well on BBC Three and then got its repeat on BBC One, and that, as people like to think they found an underground.
Yes, they like that feeling,
tell their friends about it. That sort of water cooler culture. For some shows, it's not done well, and the soaps are struggling a little bit at the moment.
Do you think so?
Yeah, and that's why we're seeing, at certain times you see those enormous stories. Oh, we're throwing a tram off the viaduct. Everybody's, and it's interesting. Brookside got taken off the air because it got too ridiculous towards the end. There are stories in soaps now that I think, I'm not sure Brookside would have touched that back.
And they're not here anymore.
Yeah, but it's interesting because actually we lose the soaps that are pearl in this country. Some of our best writers came up through the soap.
Definitely.
Sally Wainwright, Russell T Davies, Kay Mellor was on Albion Market for your older listeners there. You know, the skills that you gain writing on a soap, the discipline that you get, your understanding of production cannot be replicated anywhere else. And so they should be seen as these enormous training grounds for not everybody's going to be the next Sally Wainwright.
No.
I know, you know, and I don't know how Sally's Sally, because bloody hell, she writes like she must never sleep, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, we need that mixed economy. So we need to make sure that we protect certain things that are also a massive part of British culture.
Definitely.
You know, the coronation, Hilda Ogden kissing Stan and saying that's the taste of woman, Stanley, woman, is an important cultural moment.
Oh,
for us.
absolutely! I saw a clip the other day, and it was the whole Den and Angie.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I can remember watching that when I was a kid, and like I haven't watched EastEnders for a long time,
No.
but it's still in your psyche.
Exactly.
And like even when you watch the Little Ardents on the BBC, and especially when it's come to Christmas, I remember there was a whole thing like who killed so and so.
Yeah.
And even though I don't watch it, I was invested. I was invested, yeah. Because I just think, like you say, it's just so much part of our culture.
Absolutely.
The soap opera.
Yeah.
And I think compared to like American soaps, ours are very particular.
Absolutely.
They've got a very different feel. You know, and then you've got like Emmerdale. You know, who would have thought that? You know, a little, you know, Trouble at Mill. You know,
Aye.
how would you think that would still be about nowadays and still be relevant? But it absolutely is, and it's a credit to the writers that they've managed to keep it relevant.
It's an incredible writing team at Emmerdale, and I don't miss writing Emmerdale, but I miss hanging out with that gang of writers and the people who've been there 30 years who are so invested in that show, so care about it. They'll have to dynamite them out of the writing team. But you need that, and there are new writers coming up as well, and that it is a unique culture. Is the soap writers room in this country? It's less on EastEnders, but Herriott still has they have big conferences. Coronation Street have some of the most experienced, talented writers in the country on their writing team, and they sit there to come month after month after month with the same characters, turning over that rock and finding a new angle on it is an extraordinary talent.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of our top writers who couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so when people get sniffy about soap writing, I get quite angry. It's like, you couldn't do it.
No.
You'd last a month.
Yeah.
And then the idea of coming back and going, I've got to do it all again.
Yeah. Be consistent.
Exactly.
Yeah. And because people are so invested in soaps, it's not like you can get away with shoddy writing, or you make a character do something that everybody else knows they would never do.
Yeah, they'll call you out.
Yeah,
and quite rightly. And I think that keeps you. And as writers, you dismiss your audience at your peril.
Yeah.
It's frustrating when people complain. You know, I think complaints that are legit to ignore. You know, oh, there was a gay character kissing. I don't want to see that on my telly. Tough. Your telecom's on an off switch. Turn it off.
Well, it was like the big hoo-ha the other week where two dancers had danced with each other for like a couple of minutes on screen. Two male dancers on Strictly, and then there was the big. I mean, sometimes I wonder how much the reporting of that story is kind of adding to the
I agree.
to the hoo-ha. And actually, if you'd not mentioned it, would anybody care? And then there was a writer who sort of said, if you've been watching Strictly for a long time and you are not accepting of the gay community, then there's something wrong with you in the first place. What do you think you're watching?
This is the campest show on television, and I'm including RuPaul's Drag Race. It's camp, that it is enormously camp. So and it is quite clear that there is a dying hardcore of people who love to complain.
Yes, it doesn't matter what it would be.
Exactly,
there would be
it's too sexy. Oh, I didn't like the swearing. God, read a book then.
Or flick over.
Yeah.
Or tune into Netflix. You've got so many options these days.
Watch CBBC. I've seen the swearing on there. God.
Yeah, go back to that. That's where you need to go. Do you feel like Leeds has been a good sort of ground for a lot of writers? Do you feel like we've managed to produce much?
Absolutely. We've Leeds and Bradford have some so there's Kay Mellor, obviously. Then if you go to Halifax, you've got Sally Wainwright. I mean, you can't move in Halifax now for filming of a Sally Wainwright drama. And Kay obviously owns Leeds. I'm trying to carve out maybe a little corner of Bradford, that area. Yorkshire in general is just a fantastic place for writers because it has this. Now, I always say it's unique, but there's probably, I'm thinking of obscure places. Bedford probably has this, etc. But this sense of we are a breed apart. We're proud of who we are. You take us as you find us. It was very much instilled in me by my granddad, who was a professional Yorkshireman, I would say. He was enormously proud to be from Yorkshire. But that idea of you don't understand us, you've feeling underestimated. And I love it when people who've never been up north come and they're a bit, it's quite posh, isn't it?
It's not as grunt north as I imagined.
Exactly. It is, and maybe we're a really well kept secret.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Channel 4 come out.
Yeah.
They are recruiting a lot locally, which is a really great thing. So the head of drama is going to be is already based in Leeds because she's from around here. She lives here already, which is fantastic. So that idea of you don't get us, you don't understand us, and that desire to be understood and not underestimated drives writing. I'm going to show you a world. I'm going to show you a world you don't understand, that you've never seen on screen before. I think Kay's writing is shot through with that, and I think Sally's writing to a certain extent is, and it's uncompromising as well. It's not pretending everything's lovely up here. No, 'cause that makes for a really boring drama. But and I think this is absolutely true of Leeds. That the people who are good want good things for other people by far outstrip anybody else. Yeah. And I always say to writers, new writers, where do you get your ideas, where's your inspiration from? After you've watched the national news, which is, good grief, the world's gone mad.
Especially at the minute.
Absolutely. Always stay on and watch either Calendar or Look North. Because there's always some story of somebody who's perfectly ordinary in their walk of life doing extraordinary things.
Definitely. Kindness,
thoughtfulness, dedication, people fighting for justice. That is always on the local news. Yeah. When Harry's on that red sofa, you're going to get something. You get, we like a story where we go, we're just as important. Boris Johnson's been to Wales this week, or whatever. All of that carry on. But then beyond that, it's always some kid who's done 1,000 somersaults to raise money, or had their hair cut off to make wigs for people with cancer, or someone who's enormous achievements would not be picked up by the national news, but something to be proud of in our region. And I think I love that, and that's why I love living up here. People keep saying, "Are you going to move to London?" Absolutely not.
I'm so glad to hear it.
Where it's, I feel like my feet go into the ground like a plant, like that. My roots are here, and going on. It's lovely to visit. It's all right. It's a crap place to be skinned.
Yeah, I bet.
But then I think Leeds is probably a shit place to be skinned as well. But it is at the heart of nearly everything I write. That feeling of wanting to be here, and it makes my life hard. I spent so much money on travel last year, going up and down to Glasgow and London and Cardiff. I did all the nations. I even went to Ireland last year as well. But that feeling when I'm on the train and Elland Road hoves into view on the right hand side of the train, and I know that I'm nearly home.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same when I come home. I mean, I'm not born and bred from Leeds, but I just feel like I've just adopted this city. And what's so lovely is some of the people I've had on the podcast, and what I love about the podcast as well is I wanted to shine light on. I know there's loads of great stuff going on in Leeds, and we've done I think you're the 15th episode now, and just the range of people who are doing amazing things, and that I really like. They're not looking for any sort of approbation. No. They're just getting on with it. They're quietly getting on with it in their own little corner. Yeah. And just doing amazing things. There's so much of it.
I think we're really lucky in Leeds, and this is something I've over doing some low shots over the last 5 years, this is something I've really come to appreciate, is that our cultural life is based on inclusion and kindness. And I would say that the company that set the tone most for that are Alan Lane and Joanna at Slunglaw.
He was my first guest.
They are them. I cannot sing their praises high enough, and I talk about them wherever I go, because their kindness, their thoughtfulness, their patience with what can be a frustrating city, is enormous. And the way they've set a tone of, let's not sneer at each other, let's not try and curate our audiences so they're a certain class. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure that our work reaches out instead of is too excluding. But that's not to say it can't be challenging, and it can't be esoteric, and it can't be intellectual. I think that is now suffusing this city culturally.
I think so.
And I think it's glorious. And I do genuinely think it's one of the reasons Channel 4 ended up here. I helped in a very small way with the bid, and there was towards the end, we weren't sure whether we got it or not, and it did for a long time look like Birmingham, and in fact Birmingham were pretty convinced they'd got it. And we had one of the last visits by Channel 4, we had a bit of a do at the top of platform, which is that big tower block next to the train station. It's got a roof garden. Did you know?
I didn't know that.
And it was the most glorious. Leeds was behaving itself out. It was the most glorious sunny day, and so the city was spread out before us. It looked amazing, and it really was a heart-filling. Whoa, this is a good city. But also the people who had been invited by Leeds City Council, by the people who ran the bid, were diverse and interesting, and it was a room full of people sort of nodding to each other and going, we could do this, we could do this. And so when that news came in, that was a good day.
I was so proud, because I mean, like, I love TV. Do you know what I mean? Channel 4 are amazing.
Yeah.
And then just to not be so London centric.
Absolutely.
I just felt like it was absolutely. I mean, even if it didn't come, my heart's in Leeds. I love it. I think we're doing great. But to sort of get that approbation from such an institution, for them to choose us, just felt absolutely great.
And again, I think we'd been underestimated. Like I said, there were a couple of cities who really thought they'd nailed it. And actually, I had to be in Birmingham the day after that do. And I remember... and be like, we've got... And I talked to a couple of people at the Royal Television Society in Birmingham. They were absolutely sure they got it. To the point they were going, oh, I'm really sorry. Like, oh, no. And it was a perfect example of how, as a city, because we don't have... It's a weird thing, we don't have the big landmarks. So if you had to draw the Leeds skyline, what would you put in it? Even though we've got really beautiful buildings, we sort of just get on with it, and we've got a football team who can always snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and all of that kind of thing. We're not showy.
No.
We're not all fur coat and no knickers. We are working, we're getting on with it, and so... Yeah, to have that recognition, to have Channel 4 go, actually, and because we've also got skill sets here, that we've got really committed people to drama, to factual television. The factual television environment in this city is fantastic. Some amazing companies doing incredible work, from really high-end, hard-hitting documentary to 50 Things You Might Love About Christmas. We do it all in this city. There's amazing technical people who are writing, doing the programming for video games that sell in their millions. All of that, all here in this tiny city, but just people just getting on with it.
Yeah.
Not making a big song and dance about it.
Exactly, and I think it's sort of been a running theme when we've been talking about Leeds with all my other guests, where there's something about Leeds that we're not shouty. We're not like razzle tazzle. Like Liverpool had the big, they've got the whole music scene and culture and stuff, and then Manchester had their own little time. Do you know what I mean? And I just, the amount of people there's a lot to talk to who have not been to Leeds and said that you don't hear of it. So you hear of London, you hear of Manchester, you hear of Newcastle, you hear of Liverpool, and Leeds doesn't seem to be in that sort of band. But then when you find out people who come to Leeds and then just discovered by accident how amazing the city is, and felt like it was their home.
We have a great student retention rate, so the amount of... Because obviously, that's our other big industry, which is higher education. We've got some of the best universities running some of the best courses. the retention rate of students who stay in the city to work after they've graduated is massive. It expands, and I'm sure everybody feels it around the beginning of October. It's like, oh, it's a bit more crowded in the city. There seems to be a lot of people in town. What's that? And it is obviously the student. There's an enormous student population arriving. You have to drive carefully in Edinburgh because they're crap at crossing the road and all of that kind of thing.
And all dressed up.
Bless their tiny little cotton socks. Someone who wasn't from Leeds said, there's a lot of fancy dress shops in Leeds. Yes, there's a reason for that.
You will find out.
Yes, you'll see it eventually. But yeah, that sort of people get here and fall in love with it.
Yeah, I think so. And like you say, it's a huge testament to the city, the amount of students that we managed to retain. Yeah. You might never have thought of Leeds, they're only looking at sort of the league tables and things and thinking about the University of Leeds and, and they're coming here for a certain course and they probably haven't come with the city in mind and yet they stay here. That's
not to say, I mean, I think there are things that Leeds City Council really need to address. I think our transport is abysmal.
Tell me about it. It's an absolute nightmare.
I mean, it's just this week that there only has to be an accident on Armley Gyratory and the whole city grinds to a halt.
No, it's been like that all week, hasn't it?
Exactly.
It's been an awful week.
God help us if, Robbie Williams is at the arena at the same time. And the back of the station, they're picking up and dropping off at the back of the station. So while I'm being recorded, I will say, Leeds City Council, please do something about transport. Yeah. And the first thing I'd do is bring public transport in the city into public ownership, cut the prices.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then more people. But also, and I'll rant again, at 5:20 on a weekday, you don't send a single-decker number 16 bus out of the city centre. It was full before it got to the station.
What's the point?
And everybody stood and everybody cheesed off, and then it took an hour and a half to get to Harsley. So that's the ridiculous. We need to really think about infrastructure, because if we're going to expand our population, then we need to make sure
the size of the city. Exactly. But I have heard that the first bus contract is up, and that the council are thinking about buying it back, which I think would be amazing, because one of the things that gets my nerves is because we're obviously in Beeston and I pay a lot of money for my bus pass every month. I don't even know how some people do it, and just the fact that I live in Beeston, so a day ride for me is like £4.70, but somebody from Otley is paying £4.70, and how is that fair?
But in fact, there are less buses from Otley than there are to Beeston, so I would level it. I mean, I'm glad they've got rid of peak time and all that kind of thing. I would bring the prices down, because if you're from Otley, then maybe you've got one of those big Land Rover type. There seems to be a lot of them in Leeds now that take up 2 parking spaces. But maybe what do you have to do to get those people who actually paying £15 for a day's parking in the city centre is no sweat off their backs.
No.
So you have to make it comfortable. Look at that number 36 Herriott now. Now we've got on to transport. The number 36 Herriott bus, which is very comfortable. You can charge up your phone. Yeah. I can understand why people would go, do you know what, I'll get that instead of driving into town, which is incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
So, but what we have to do is is a combination of carrot and stick. We have to say, look, we'll provide... The park and ride at Ellen Road has done incredibly well. More of those, but also, if you bring your car into town, it's going to cost you.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's going to cost you bad.
Yeah.
So, and if the more people who are invested in our public transport, because they have to use it, we have to use our voices. When the 16 turns up and it's a single, we have to moan about it. We have to say, this is unacceptable. Yeah. And also it's outside Greg's for 15 minutes because it was running early, but it was already full, so there was no point in it getting there. Anyway.
Honestly, the same conversations all week, and because my niece has come to live here, she lived in Malton, that's where my family live. So she came here, and it's like a totally new thing for her. And one of her absolute bugbears is the bus system. Like, what is the point in having a little screen up that tells you when your bus is coming, and then the bus disappears? It's just gone. You've been waiting for 10 minutes, then it's gone.
Apparently, that happens at a Holdsworth station every morning. That they say a train's coming, they say it's come, they say it's departed.
Nobody saw it.
It's apparently an invisible train.
I was saying to Mia, you just wait until literally the first little flake of snow comes down.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Then it's just like all bets are off.
Absolutely.
You know,
panic.
what is that about?
ridiculous. And I think Leeds City Council do a great job, and I think they're also having to handle the fact that, you know, a legacy of privatisation and deregulation.
Of course.
But it all has to be, if we are going to be taken seriously as a city, because you go to Manchester and you get one of them lovely trams.
Yeah.
And you say, Nottingham has a tram. Oh God, Nottingham has trams. So, yeah, we have to do something.
We do need something. Yeah, and it does feel like there is it feels like it's been talked about for a long time, but it does feel like there is a push towards having a bigger overall picture. And like you said, you know, if you're going to bring Channel 4 and you're going to be thinking about the Leeds bid, and, you know, you have to be able to work, talk on all levels, don't you? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think we're really lucky because they've realised that, thank God we live in a city where the council has realised the value of culture, both, you know, emotionally but also economically.
Yeah.
The creative industries last year put £101 billion into the UK economy.
Wow.
So the idea, this is a message we have to get to the schools, the idea that working in the arts, working in culture is not a proper job anymore, needs to disappear.
Yeah.
It really is. You have to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
It can be unstable because you're on the majority freelance contracts, but actually it is a viable career now.
Yeah.
And it's not me, the Office of National Statistics, a couple of months ago said the thing that saved the British economy last year was film and TV production.
Really?
The money that we bring in.
That is a huge, huge factor, isn't it?
Our industry is actually bigger than fishing and agriculture now.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We have to make sure that's sustainable. We have to make sure that we keep the throughput of talent and all that kind of thing. You know, and we have to make sure we're still attracting big productions like Game of Thrones in Northern Ireland. We're looking in Leeds. We've got Screen Yorkshire who bring in Victoria. Make sure that Sally Wainwright's looked after, so she's bringing her stuff up here. That kind of thing, and also fund some really great films as well. Yeah. So we're lucky in that regard, but making sure that we understand that nobody's doing us a favour by supporting our industry. No. We are doing them the favour because we bring an enormous amount of money, and it's for every time there's a production in Leeds. It's not just the companies that are making the show that are making money. It's the hotels, it's the restaurants. Look at Shibden Hall. 800% rise in visitors.
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
Jack. You can't move for lesbian sightseeing. So, which is a brilliant thing.
It really is, yeah.
But that, you know, understanding the enormous economic benefits of a rich cultural life, I think, is a big thing.
And I mean, even just from the point of representation, like for me to watch Gentleman Jack and to hear Yorkshire accents on mainstream TV, on BBC, like at prime time moment. I mean, I just think that is to me huge, you know. And like you were talking about representation of you know, LGBTQ society, you know, ethnic minorities, or like anyone who's been categorised as other. Yeah. There's something just so important about being able to see yourself represented on television.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think hearing Yorkshire accents, because God bless Emmerdale, there's a lot of Geordies and Southerners over there. I'd just like to say, But also, I'd like to see more regional production. I mean, if Channel 4 can lead that, that's great. We need to see more Scottish voices. When was the last time you heard a Welsh voice in a TV drama?
And look what Gavin and Stacey did. Exactly. Wow, what, you know, and everyone's so excited for the Christmas special.
This is it. So, you know, what are the areas of the country that I know, if I couldn't point to them on a map, and I don't know anything about them, so maybe someone needs to put a drama there. Yeah. I think, and I would say just in our region, I'd like to see more about Bradford or York or places like that. They're great filming locations, but are we getting the representation in the voices there? Yeah. So, there's more to be done, definitely.
Yeah, but it's all very positive, it feels like to me.
I think so, yeah.
In a time when everything else seems shaky and everything else is not so positive, it's still nice to know that behind all that, you know, we're all moving on, we're all getting better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's just hope Brexit don't bugger it up.
Yeah, let's bloody hope so. So we always ask our guests 3 questions on the podcast. The first one is, although I think you've probably summed it up, what is something that you think is great about Leeds?
I'm going to enter into evidence Slung Low and the Hallback. I think it's the most incredible thing, and I love them very much.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I tell everyone all the time. Someone was on to me the other day about seeing theatre production stuff. I was like, go to Slumlord every Sunday. They've got something on every Sunday. You know, and just that model of pay as you feel, because I grew up in a family where we didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have much access to stuff like that, and that is a huge deal, and especially because where they've positioned themselves in Holbeck, you know, which is not economically fantastic.
No.
Just to be a hub there for cultural stuff is like gold dust, I think.
I would argue that the Holbeck, because they've done 2 cabarets now, and I've been to both of them, they were most extraordinary nights. It is the most unique theatre audience you will find anywhere in the country, and there's a tension there between, you know, the trendy hipsters who did used to go to the hub when they were in the viaduct, and the people who quite rightly feel an ownership of that working men's club because they've been going for years, and it's such an interesting dynamic. Well, because obviously this was the first year that we did Slumlord Shorts at the new venue. We were nervous. We didn't know what to expect. But we had frank, honest audiences who told us what they liked and told us what they didn't like, and it kept us on our toes, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was really exciting to have that group of people. And I get it that some of them are very nervous about a bunch of hipsters coming in and taking over their beloved space, but I think some of them are really making it work, and I think it's there's a lesson for us all there. Yeah,
definitely. And can you tell us something that you think is not so great about Leeds? I think it might be transport.
It's transport, but also I do think sometimes, and I can say this as Leeds born and bred, we can be a bit provincial.
Right.
I think we're welcoming as a city, but we are suspicious of anybody from outside. And I think we have to be a bit more open. We've got, you know, an amazing multicultural city, and we need to appreciate that more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also Leeds United need to raise the game a bit. They need to win some more stuff, please. They're doing very well. We were at this point last year. We're doing quite well this season, but then it all went horrible after Christmas. So let's hope that we can buck that trend. I'd like our football team to be back in the Premiership, please.
I'm totally with you, and also it'd make my son so happy. And also, we always ask people, even if you've lived in Leeds for a long time, can you tell us about something that people might not know about that's a hidden gem?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm loath to say it because I quite like this bit hidden, but Farsley and Pudsey, the area of Leeds that I live in and I grew up in, I think is really lovely. Farsley's been extraordinary. So growing up there, there was a big council estate at the top, and that's where I grew up there, but there was some private housing. It had been a mill town, so there was Sunnybank Mills there, and it was just a very functional village almost. And what's happened over the last few years is Sunnybank Mills has been massively redeveloped. We have an organic cafe and an art gallery now. We have an art space in the Constitutional. We never used to have even so much as a cafe, and now we've got a Mexican restaurant.
What?
Now, all of that. So I have a theory of parties that if you find somewhere comfortable to sit and you sit long enough, you get to interesting people, and that's been my theory of Farsley. Is I've sat there for long enough. This amazing village has grown up around it. Amazing sort of scrap place that rescues stuff that would have otherwise gone to landfill and repurpose it for art projects. It is a lovely, lovely place to be, and I'm really glad I grew up there, and I'm really glad I still live there. So that, I think, you know, coming out of the city centre and finding the different areas of Leeds is really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's just some very distinct parts out there.
Absolutely. I like Headingley, I like Chapel Allerton, I like Beeston, I like Holbeck. Mm-hmm. I think there's something for everyone, and every area has something unique and valuable about it.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I totally agree with you. Thank you so much for coming along and chatting to us today.
Absolute pleasure.
And I hope to see what you're working on come out soon.
Very soon,
exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
We'll tell you. Wait a minute.
Lisa Holdsworth there, and I'm sure you'll agree that she was a brilliant guest. I'm very much looking forward to seeing her version of All Creatures Great and Small in the new year. Music this week is a great track called Time at the Bar by a fantastic Leeds band, A Night in November. Enjoy!
We listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. We imagine an endless summer full of memories.
So beat it down on you, friends and drinks and barbecues.
Staying up at sunrise, don't need coffee when you got songs and whiskey.
Shots on me, shots on me, shots on me.
If I sang a song, then you sing along. Show and tell, ring the motherfucking bell.
Show and tell, ring the motherfucking bell.
Show and tell,
Ring the motherfucking bell.
not a thought of rest or pains and just living on second wind energy.
Things will never change.
Things will never change. We listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. You traded punk rock, dried up for Netflix and chill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. Yeah, leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. Some nights I fall asleep on the stairway and you cheer when I woke up. If we keep drinking,
The party never stops.
it wasn't always good, but we could laugh it off like we always would.
Ripped out fireplace, New Year's Eve, no fireplace.
Nighttime talks on swings,
Flames,
wanting greater things.
flames,
Never knew we had it so good.
times were good.
Yeah, times were good when no man was left behind.
Times were good.
No man left behind. We listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. You traded punk rock, dried up for Netflix and chill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. Yeah, leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. I'm not saying that I'm not happy for you. We were warriors, we were Spartan. I'm not saying that I'm not happy for you. We were kings, we were centurion. Bang, bang, bang. I'm not saying that I'm not happy for you. I know you still listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. You traded punk rock, dried up for Netflix and chill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. We listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. You traded punk rock, dried up for Netflix and chill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. Leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. We listen to the same songs that we always will, and leaving this behind's a hard to swallow pill. You traded punk rock,
Dried up for Netflix and chill.
Chill.
Yeah.